Hello, everybody. I am Sapna Mahadevan, your host for this evening. And again, today we are going to discover the joy of doing stand up comedy. Yes, the vertical that we are exploring these days is, of course, stand up comedy and also to do with the performing arts, right? So, I give you a lot of tips and tricks on how you can deliver the jokes on the stage in front of a live audience, and also how you can write your own scripts, the joke material, one liners or punchlines, whatever you want to incorporate into your comedy routine. How do you write that, and definitely how do you deliver that to your audiences so that they are in stitches? Yes, so that's the objective for today as well. Let me welcome all of you to this interesting episode of Stand Out at Stand Up Comedy. Explore yourself at a comic level, right? So let's look at some of the curated segments where we learn more about how to perform stand up comedy, how to write our own comedy sets. Yes, so let me take you through the coming up segment. Here it is, and gamut of activities planned specially for our dear viewers. Some of you waving hello to me at the in the chat box here. Thanks again for joining the live. It's really a pleasure to have all of you in here with me. Do stay tuned in. We are going to have a lot of fun segments as well as wealth of information on how to perform stand-up comedy, right? So we have all of these segments as listed out here on my screen. The definition of a stand-up comedy, who is a stand-up comedian, the different scenarios, essentials, and the fun part where we share and decipher the EDM segment, where we share the meaning of an EDM and fun ways in how you can be incorporating these EDMs into your daily conversation, right? Apart from that, there are synonymous words, identify the comedian, and also icebreaker questions that keep coming up every now and then. Yes. So, thinking creatively and answering to all of these questions here, being a participative audience, is something that I am expecting out of all of you here. Um, that's going to be quite easy, isn't it? And it is also going to be a lot of fun, right? So let's get started with our episode with the first segment, which is guess the character. Right now, I'm going to show you some pictures. These are popular movie or cartoon characters, and I'm sure that you're going to know who they are once you look at them, and you need to mention their names in the chat box. Right now, how difficult is that, isn't it? Aisha, thanks a lot for that comment there. Interesting is what Aisha says. That's nice. I'm so glad to know. So do stay tuned in here. We have a lot of segments planned specially for our dear viewers for today. And the first segment where we play Guess the Character. Let me show you the first character for the day. And all Marvel Comics fans are going to love this one, right? Now, who is that character, the superhero that we are showing you on the screen right now? Since we are doing character comedy, we started it off with we started it off yesterday's in yesterday's episode, and today again we are going to continue with character comedy and let you know some examples of comedians who have invented a particular character and then really lured the audiences with that particular character, right? So now let me see my comment box here. I want the name of that character here. Debangshu Das Gupta says Deadpool. Think about it. Okay, and what are the other names that I'm getting here? Spider-Man is another one here that I get. Okay. And there I get the correct answer. Thanks a lot for that. Lovin gives me that answer there. Let me show that answer to you. It is, of course, the famous character Miles Gonzalo Morales, which is one fictional comic book character. Let me tell you, a superhero appearing in Marvel Comics, and we all know him popularly as Spider-Man, right? So, thanks for that answer again, Lavin. And let's get moving here. I find a typo there with the name. Um, Please ignore that, and let's move ahead to the next one here. There it is. So in a black background, I think that's not clearly visible, but I think you can make that out. What is this famous character here? Okay, waiting for some answers in the chat box. Daffy Duck, that is correct. Jennifer gives me the correct answer. That's right. And I have really grown watching up Walt Disney. Yes. So that's wonderful. Let's move ahead to the third guess the character, third one in this segment. And this is going to be the last one. So you need to really brace yourselves. Here is the last one for the day. Okay. So that's quite popular, isn't it? Quickly in the chat box, if you can name this character here. And Prachi says, hello. Hi there, Prachi. Good evening to you too. Hope you had a great day today. Anything that you people want to share with me about your day, please do go ahead and write it in the chat box. And unfortunately, that's not the correct answer. And yes, it is Toad, right? So thanks again for all of those answers and for attempting to give me correct answers here. You can also let me know how your day has been, anything special that you did today, maybe, or anything that you accomplished. Any thoughts that you want to share with me, please do go ahead. The chat box is open and welcome for all of you to have an interaction. So, yes, waiting eagerly to listen from my audience members here. With that, let me move ahead to the next segment. What is stand-up comedy, right? So we've been seeing this from since the past 2 weeks, and let me again bring it out to all of my new members here that stand-up comedy is a show or a performance which the comedian does, live on stage in front of a live audience. Yes, and anytime we always say that making people laugh is really difficult. Yes, now just imagine if you are on the stage and you have a live audience in front of you and you want to make them laugh their heads off. That's going to be really difficult, isn't it? But of course, if you learn the art and if you have a funny bone, then you can ace the humor game. You can learn all the different tips and tricks that comedians have up their sleeves, and with that you can try giving punchlines and one liners or maybe witty statements, by way of which you can incite humor into your comedy set. Yes, that sounds interesting, isn't it? So, this episode and all the other episodes that we have done in the stand up comedy vertical is just for that, right? So to make people laugh and to learn this art. Yes. So, let me tell you, the average stand up comedy show gets 4 to 6 laughs a minute from the audience. Can you just imagine that? 4 to 6 laughs a minute, right? And as we all know, humor really does our health good. So we definitely need to relax and maybe learn this art form as a stress buster, even, isn't it? So, yes, that's what stand up comedy is all about. And today, the subtopic that we have is character comedy. So, we started off with character comedy in yesterday's episode. And I told you that this is one genre where the comedian performs as a character that they have created out of thin air. Yes. So, it is actually a talent to invent a particular character and then perform that character in such a way that your audience really starts having a connect and a liking to that character. Yes, for example, now I can always talk about Tim Allen playing a handyman in Home Improvement and his other stand-up routines. Also, more popularly, we can talk about Mr. Bean, which is a character created by Rowan Atkinson. Right now, that's who he plays, and how well he has actually learned the mannerisms, small little nuances of Mr. Bean, and he performs it to the T, isn't it? Definitely makes us laugh. Now, silent comedy is always about people creating characters and then mimicking those characters by way of only facial expressions. Yes. Now, by talking about this, I also remember Charlie Chaplin. Yes. So all of these characters that these people or the comedians have created, that is called character comedy. When you perform on stage and you have invented a very own character, and then you play that character in real on the stage, then that's what is characterized as character comedy. Yes. So if you have had an understanding of what this is all about, then please do give me a thumbs up in the chat box. And Kiran Juneja says her day has been good. I'm so glad. Um, my day, okay. So my day has also been really good. I have been in the presence of a lot of children from PlanetSpark, and we have been doing our PlanetSpark classes, and it's really really wonderful when I am surrounded by children. The honesty and the innocence that really awes me. Yes. So my day has really been special. Thanks a lot for asking. And let me now move ahead to the next segment. Now, today we are going to talk about different examples of character comedy, right? So, when we think of stand up comedy, we always remember, or maybe we attempt to recreate our favorite one liners that we would have heard some comedians do. Yes. But what about those typically original characters that are so skillfully developed by our most beloved comedians? Yes. Now, it's one thing to temporarily morph into a person, and it's totally another thing where, you have to actually create a character out of thin air. It takes a lot of talent and tenacity to do that, and then sustain that character through long sets of comedy, that too in front of a live audience. Yes. So that's what there are different examples of character comedy that we will be coming across in today's episode. You may want to also jot down the names and try viewing some of their episodes or their stand-up comedy routines in YouTube, and maybe observe and understand how they do this, right? So this is character comedy day one, and examples of different character comedy is what we have as the agenda for the day, right? Now, let's move ahead to our next segment, which is an icebreaker question. And it says, what is your favorite outfit? Right. So, do mention in the chat box what's your favorite outfit. And for me, let me tell you, it should be the Indian sari. It's one graceful attire that I really love. Yes. So, that is the one for me. Do let me know what's your favorite outfit in the chat box here. And I think girls are really going to answer me here in the chat box, right? Quickly in the chat box, some comments. You can maybe give me smart casuals or denims or whatever is your favorite outfit, right? Okay. Jeans is one answer that I get here. Thanks a lot for that, Ashok. Um, Smart casuals is what comes next. Thanks again. Jennifer says skirt and a blouse. Nice. Wonderful. Indian wear. Okay, that's what Prisha tells me. Lovely. So thanks again for all of these choices that you have put here in the chat box. And another comment that I get says nice flowy gowns. Okay, so just like the one Cinderella wears, maybe, isn't it? Thanks a lot for that answer there. And yes, let's move ahead with that icebreaker question to the next segment. The next segment is establishing the essentials. And here today we are going to talk about the examples of character comedy, right? So the first one for the day is Andrew Clay's Dice Man. Now, he'll be the most polarizing, controversial character on this particular list, maybe. You either, as an audience, hate his raunchy, politically incorrect jokes, or maybe you love them. If you love them, you aren't alone because there is a fan following. And Andrew Clay's Diceman, at the peak of its success, was able to sell out Madison Square Garden. And that's how popular he was, right? So making Diceman is one of the most successful characters. And yet, many people don't realize that comedian Andrew Clay's Diceman is actually a fictional character, right? So, a character that has even made its way into a hosting gig and also in parts of movies. One of the movies is Pretty in Pink, right? So, that's the first example that we have here of character comedy. Andrew Clay's Diceman, which is actually a fictional character. We already I told you about Charlie Chaplin and Mr. Bean. That could be examples that you can keep at the top of your head. And these are some others that we will like to point out here in today's episode. Maybe you can check out the works of these artists as well in YouTube or try finding them online. Yes, now the second one that we have here is Eddie Izzard's Evil Giraffe. Now, he's known for his Death Star canteen bit. These are all bits that he did in, the the stand-up comedy routines, right? And the comedian Eddie Lizard, the facial expressions that he makes when playing the evil giraffe is the stuff that viral GIFs are made of, right? So the voice he does, that slow, sly voice. So always we see comedy and public speaking, all of these require a lot of voice modulation techniques, isn't it? So that's how you can grab the attention of your audiences, right? So the sly voice actually sounds kind of convincing, and that's exactly how a giraffe would sound if you come to think of it. Yes, now it's not a full-fledged character like some of the others that we are going to mention, but his stand-up style is made up of short vignettes more than large chunks of time devoted to a single signature character, and that's what the audience loves him for, right? So that's the second example that we have here, Eddie Izzard's Evil Giraffe. And now moving ahead to Maria Bamford's Christy Coombs. Now that's the actress or the comedian Maria Bamford, and she often features different characters in her stand-up routine, and they are usually based on people who are or who have been a part of her life at some point or the other. Yes, but they're not. As an exception, there is Christy Coombs, and if you have ever had frenemies, that's what Christy Coombs is all about, right? So friends turned enemies and vice versa. Ever had that same person question your success and talents years afterwards? That's Christy Coombs, yes. So that is one of the characters that Maria Bamford performs. And moving ahead to the fourth one for the day, which is Jim Carrey. Yes, so we all know this popular comedian, and always he performs kind of like a maniac. Yes, and has a high energy, always on the stage, and seemingly has this expressionless face sometimes. It's no wonder that Jim Carrey has a character of his own, right? Now, while his stand up is known primarily for impressions and facial expressions that too which are wacky, and maybe body movements that seem to be like a maniac, Carrey also dabbled in creating his own characters, one of whom was an oddly optimistic gospel singer, which failed miserably, of course. And every time he sang, Jesus would run away, right? So that was one of Jim Carrey's performances, and that failed. He was the gospel singer, and we know him for his high energy and for his performances, which are a bit on the wackier side. Yes. So now, with all of these examples, let's move ahead to some fun segments, and then we'll be back again with a couple of more examples of character comedy, right? And I have Jennifer here in the chat box. She says she had a great day today. She had her first day of school. That's wow. Wonderful. Um, Thanks again, Jennifer, for giving us that bit of information here. So, yes, all of us really excited. Life getting back to normal bit by bit, isn't it? Let's keep our fingers crossed here, but also always keep following the protocols, right? Yes, thanks again. Now let's move ahead to the next segment, which is a synonymous word. Now, maniac is the word that we have here, and maniac would have synonyms: uh, fanatic, freak, or loony. Right? Those are the words that we have here, and we saw this particular word in when we discussed about Jim Carrey's performances. Right? So let's. I hope you're able to hear me. Um, yes, thanks for that. Yes, so we are back again. So the synonymous word was maniac, and it also has similar word meanings or synonyms: fanatic, freak, and loony. Right now, jot down all of these words. You can use them wherever appropriate. And with that, let us move ahead to the next segment. It is a fun segment that we have for our viewers, and the name of the segment is Quiz Time. Right. So, two questions in our quiz time today. Yes, there are two. The first one is, what is that instrument called that you use to measure blood pressure? Yes, I know that's a popular instrument, but do you know the name? We always keep calling it as the blood pressure instrument, or maybe the cuff. Yes, but what's the name of that blood pressure instrument? Quickly in the chat box. So this is one bit of information that we are going to get, I think, today. Questions coming up, question marks coming up here in the chat box. Let me reveal the answer there. It is called a sphygmomanometer. Yes, sphygmomanometer. That's what it is called. The instrument that is used to check blood pressure, right? And these are sometimes also called the blood pressure cuff. Yes. Now, with that, get a thumbs up there. Thanks again. And let's move ahead to the next question. I hope you get this one right. What color symbolizes peace? Now, that's quite easy, isn't it? The sign that symbolizes peace is this: V for victory or V for peace. And what's the color that symbolizes peace? White is right, of course. And that rhymes, isn't it? White is right. Yes. So, all of you giving me correct answers. That is absolutely correct. White is the correct answer. So, those were the two questions in our quiz time. And now it's time for me to give you some expert tips in establishing the essentials while you're writing character comedy, right? So, here is the first one that we have, an expert tip. Don't steal. Yes, so this is a really crucial bit of information these days, with a lot of you know it's become really easier with social media to come across information from various writers. But don't steal is one of the pointers that we would like to mention here. Don't even borrow or rephrase, it's never cool. And if you're looking for stand-up comedy as a career, then it's definitely not going to work. And you need to be as original as possible. So don't lift a joke from another comic, even if it's unintentional or done subconsciously or whatever. Just drop the joke, right? It is not worth being labeled as a hack, which is ultimately what could happen, right? So people these days come to know easily whether the joke is your original or not. So we definitely have to give our focus towards this particular fact. And never ever, you can get inspired, but don't steal someone else's joke material, right? So that was the first expert tip here, which needs real consideration, which needs to be really there on our minds always. Yes. And now the second expert tip that we have here is something about time limit, right? So always we see that whenever comedians go up onto the stage, they say my time is up. So that means that they have been given some particular time limit for their act, and you always need to be sure to stay within that time slot given to you. The time slot could be given by a promoter, or if you're performing in a club, then by the club manager, or even by the open mic organizer. Now, it's really rude and unprofessional to go longer than your allotted time. And remember always that there are other comedians who are waiting for you to finish up, and they should get every minute that they have been promised, right? So it's also unprofessional to do less times. Like the way that we tell you that you do not need to extend your time limit. Conversely, it's also true that you should not be, taking less time on stage than what you were expected to deliver. Yes. So the only thing that you can be doing here is practice your act at home before you perform on stage, and you can definitely make out uh, whether you're short of time or whether you're taking too long, right? So that will come to you by practice, but time is of essence, and we definitely need to make sure that we stay within the time slot, do not exceed, and do not underperform, right? Now, these were the two expert tips that we had for today's character comedy special. But of course, this also works for any other type of comedy, stand up comedy that you perform, right? Now, let's move into our next segment, which is Decipher the Idiom. And let me tell all my audience members here that idioms are phrases which have a hidden meaning. You cannot take the idiom quite literally, and it will always have a hidden meaning, which you need to know prior before using it, right? So it's an impressive way to talk or put across your points to the audience, or even while you're conversing with your friends and family members. Yes, now today's idiom is to laugh up one's sleeve. That means to laugh secretly with the intention of hiding one's laughter, right? And one example that I can give you here of how you can be using that idiom in a sentence is, I couldn't help but laugh up my sleeve when she told that horrible joke. Yes. So she had to really laugh up on her sleeve because that was a horrible joke. Yes. So that's how you can be using that particular idiom. Jot it down, and write down the meaning as well, to laugh secretly or unintentionally, right? Now, after that, let's again go back to our primary agenda here, which is where we were talking about all of the different character comedy, uh, fictional characters done by our famous comedians. So we saw four or five in the previous segment, and now again, let me continue with that. Here we have Andy Kaufman's Foreign Man. So it was only meant to be a funny lead, but comedian Andy Kaufman's Foreign Man character, it it really brought him so much more, right? So, most notably, Kaufman's Foreign Man character landed him a role in the Emmy Award winning early 80s sitcom called Taxi as the immigrant mechanic, right? So, you can actually go ahead and check out some of the stand up comedy routines done by these comedians. But this is one example that we have here in today's episode. And then the next one is Flip Wilson's character called Geraldine, and it certainly gained its fame from the comedian's variety show, the Flip Wilson Show, and the character, or rather, their voice actually originated from an early stand-up routine in which Wilson recounts the version of the story of Christopher Columbus. Yes, so that's another example that we have here in our kitty. And moving ahead to the next one, which is okay. So, some more information about Flip Wilson. The routine featured a character by the name of Queen Isabel Johnson, whose cheeky personality and high pitched voice is widely considered to be the basis of the iconic Jones character Wilson would later develop, right? So, that's how this particular character took shape. And now, for the last one that we have for today, which is Richard Pryor's Mudbone. Yes. So this was created way back in 1975, and it was one of the most popular bits from comedian Richard from comedian Richard's stand-up performances. And this character was an elderly. It was possibly also an immortal man from Tupelo who would share anecdotes, make fun, and also talk about philosophies of life in general during his long monologues, right? So, monologue would mean where it is only one person talking. You can listen to one of Mudbone's most famous monologue, the one performed during 1982 show and later turned into an album, which was called Live on the Sunset Strip, right? So, um, that's one of the examples that we have here for character comedy. And with that, get a hi message here from R&R. Okay. Hello there. Thanks a lot for joining the live. And let's now move ahead to the next one, which is name this famous comedy show writer. Okay. So here is the picture that we have. You can give me the comments in the chat box if you know this famous personality. And I'm going to wait for a couple of seconds. So Richa, yes, we have been doing character comedy today as well. And yesterday we told you what it was. Today we are giving you some examples of character comedy. And week by week we will be taking up the same stand-up comedy categories again. And we'll give you examples and scenarios and make you understand how you can be writing one for yourself. Yes. So now let me give you the name of this famous comedy show writer, Martha Kaufman, right? Now, let's move ahead. Didn't know that is the comment that I get there, not a problem at all. And let's move ahead to our next segment, which is again expert tips and tricks. The first one that we have here is really depending on where you perform. If you're able to take a video of your performance, right, then you can actually go back, watch yourself to see what worked and what needs changing, right? So maybe you can film yourself, you can check on some very basic things like what was your pace, how was your pitch, did you step on on laughs from the crowd, which means that when people were laughing on the joke that you just made, did you give them enough time, or were you just quick enough to go ahead, right? So these things probably you won't be aware at the moment while you're performing live. Yes, at that time maybe your nerves are ticking in. Yes, but a videotape where you have filmed yourself will give you an opportunity to examine and reflect on your performance so that you can make changes for the future. Yes, now just remember that even if you have done some mistakes, don't obsess it over for long. Just evaluate yourself and quickly see how you can make some changes there, right? Don't over obsess and don't over evaluate. Do not be a self critique. You may lose some spontaneity by doing that, right? So that is one expert tip that we would want to really come out with here. And with that, we come to the end of today's episode. But before I end, I have another fun segment for our viewers here, which is locate the word. So find all the hidden words in 1 minute. I'm going to show you a letter maze. And in this letter maze, the words can be written horizontally, it can be written diagonally, or even vertically, right? So see carefully, observe carefully, and write to me in the chat box. All the words are from today's episode, so you might find some of the words there. Um, there are 4 words for today. Okay, waiting for some answers here. I get deadpan, that's correct. What else? Wacky, of course, that is correct again. We spoke about how Jim Carrey's performances have been wacky. Yes. Okay, 2 more to go. Okay, so let me reveal some of the answers here. The first one was deadpan, and then we have routine. That's the second one that you all missed. And of course, we have wacky, and the last one is sly. So, those were the words in today's Locate the Word segment. And let's move ahead and understand what we learned about character comedy. Of course, we saw some of the examples today, right? Now, as a project work, I would urge all of you to draft your own character comedy script. Try working at that maybe. And tomorrow, I'll be live again with anecdotal comedy, maybe on Monday. Tomorrow being Saturday, we'll maybe have our Saturday special episode. Yes. So, um, that is it for now. Yes, bye everyone in the chat box writing to me. I am Sapna Mahadevan signing out for today, and we'll meet next tomorrow again at 6 p.m. India time. Do stay tuned in and take good care of yourselves. Have a happy time. Bye bye.